from Bugoma, Gongwa, Mombasa, MVITA. The topic today is the Lunatic Express. When people from Europe came to Africa, the first people to come across were the people from the Geographical Society, touring the continent and mapping the continent. After some time, they drew boundaries when Africa was demarcated and different countries had their protectorates and colonies. The Kenyan province of the British colony and the Ugandan province where they visited had different tribal formation. Some had chiefs. And what was remarkable is that when they went into the interior, they found kingdoms that resembled theirs. In the western part of Kenya, they found the Wanga kingdom of the Wanga in Luhyaland. And when they proceeded, they found the Buganda kingdom. These kingdoms had a lot of similarities. But when they got to Uganda, they saw the fertile land and the kingdom that almost operated like the monarchy of Britain. Those in the protectorate decided that they were going to build a railway line to join Uganda, the Buganda kingdom, the Uganda kingdom, to the East African coast. That was around 1901. That's when they started building the railway. There were no economic activities as they assessed at that time because there were other places that had a lot of minerals as compared to the Kenyan colony. In Uganda, there were some minerals that could be exploited. So the people in the British Parliament kept arguing amongst themselves. If we're going to start that railway line to Uganda, in fact it was called the Ugandan Railway, how will it maintain itself and sustain itself? The plan came in the form of having people from Europe, especially Britain, to settle in the fertile lands along the railway line, and then their produce would be able to make the railway line sustain itself. So when they came, they did their mapping of the railway line, and when they started building the railway line, they had resistance from several Kenyan tribes that had prophecies. There was a community that had prophecies that when an iron snake will come from the coast and white butterflies, it will be the end of their kingdom. Another community had heard that when the line comes, the iron snake comes from the coast, that will be belching smoke. A lot of misfortune will come to their community. So when the railway line came, those who were building were unable to find labor in East Africa because people from Kenya and other countries had never been used to working. They used to live in their communities, they would do the hunting, they would be warriors, but employment where you are paid wages and you are kept to toil in certain places was a foreign thing to them. They'd never done that. It was not in their system. So that kind of work could not function. They had to get workers from one of the colonies that had been building railways for some time and was advanced in that. They went to India and brought the workers they called coolies. The coolies started working on the rail line from Mombasa. When they reached Thavo, they had problems. There were man-eater lions that ate several people and almost stopped the railway line from functioning. But the lions were shot by one of the white settlers called Patton. The two lions were shot. The two worst man-eater lions were shot. The railway proceeded. And when the British had settled in the Kenyan Protectorate, they had made their capital in the town of Machakos. That was the first capital of the British Kenyan colony, Machakos. But as they were building and reached a place of cool river waters, Nairobi, they settled there, started doing most of the things, arranging most of the construction things from that cool place. And later, the place developed and the capital of Kenya was removed from Machakos to Nairobi. The construction went on up to Port Florence. And then there will be a connection by the railway line to Port Bell. Those were the names of the towns that time. Port Florence is now called Kisumu. The Lake Victoria remains Lake Victoria. So when the rail line was being built, there was a lot of resistance from the first community. And the second community, people would steal the telegraph wires. It had a lot of complications. But it went through. And for the first time, settlers came and settled, bringing new things, new ways of doing things, new farming, new kinds of animals, new kinds of crops, and connecting to Uganda where copper could be mined and many other minerals. So the line became a lifeline for the Kenyan and Ugandan communities. Later, the line was also extended to some parts in Tanganyika, which later became Tanzania. And with those railway lines, they were able to, the trade was able to go on throughout the three countries. It was an important railway line. It made transportation cheap. It opened up interiors where people would not have settled, things would not have moved. It united the country. It was a good thing. For those who had the privilege of traveling in some time, when I was a small boy, it was comfortable. You could, there were some classes where you could sleep, cafeteria and all those things. It was interesting. And then it was cheap to transport goods from one place to another place. very cheap. As time went by, the railway line started failing, and we introduced other forms of transport, but they were more expensive, and they still are very expensive. And the railway went down and down and down. And there was a time when it temporarily stopped functioning. There were no railway activities, becoming expensive for the people who are used to using the railway line. There has been some resuscitation. A standard gauge railway has been built from MONBASA to Nairobi, but it's only for passengers, a few trips, and not for goods. The railway line was a great thing for Kenya. It can still be a great thing for the development of the country. Yes, there are several lines. Those that were built, they enter each and every place. This thing called the railway line has shown signs of resuscitation. There are plans of extending the railway to Malaba and all those places. It is a good guess. But when you look at other countries that are also operating the same, if electricity can be used overhead, it will be a very good thing. So the question we are asking is, did we really kill the Lunatic Express? Or are we going to revive the Lunatic Express? The snake that would come from the coast and go to Kisumu, Port Florence. Is it still alive, or did we kill it? And if it can be resuscitated, and if the government can make, or whoever is handling or controlling, can electrify and make as many trips so that it becomes commercialized. Like the one from Nairobi to is good for, it takes people once and things like that and back. But if the railway lines can be reinstated, several trips made, just the way buses they used to be done in the past, you have several trips per day. You are able to export, not to export, to transport goods and people. It will make traveling cheaper, communication cheaper, transportation of goods cheaper. And if instead of the diesel electric engines that were being used, if we can fully go electrical, have overhead lines like other countries are doing, and the trains use electric power only, have as many trips as possible, it would make transportation cheap, especially for goods and for people. It will make traveling cheap, and we will be able to make some profit that is lost in the transportation of things using other means. The Lunatic Express that was meant to join the kingdoms to the coast, the Wanga Kingdom and the Buganda Kingdom, became an opener for development and civilization in East Africa. My take would be that We revive the snake. Let the snake again go from Mombasa to Kisumu and to Uganda, connecting the way it used to connect. People are wondering, talking of the snake? Yes, the Lunatic Express, the snake. Snake is not always a sign of evil. If you go to the World Health banner, you will always see a snake. And in the Torah, the original people say a snake is also a sign of health, a sign of wisdom. So, my take would be, if it's possible, resuscitate the snake. Resuscitate the Lunatic Express. It was thought to be a mad idea, but it ended paying dividends in the Kenya colony. Kenya, you can do it. The resources are there. The railway lines, there was a time I heard of privatization. If it has been privatized, we would wish that the one who has privatized the railway line puts it into action. There is the continuation of the railway to Malava. It's a welcome idea. But if there could be an improvement, regular movement of the train in transportation and everything, it will do a lot of good to the Kenyan people. Yes, let's revive the Lunatic Express. The thing that was thought could not function but did great to Kenya. It can still do a lot more to Kenya. This is just my suggestion. This is my wish. I say that instead of staying with things, ideas, it's better you put them out. If they can be helpful, they be used. If they cannot, you would have put them out anyway. They have reached the necessary places. If it's possible, revive the Lunatic Express. It would do a lot of good to the Kenyan people. That's my take for now.